In today's video, I want to talk about how to go from enabling narcissists to becoming immune to anything that they do or say. There was a time when learning about the narcissist and how to identify them so as to avoid them was really popular. But to me, it almost feels like that personality or those personality traits are so common today. In fact, it's easier to come across people with those traits than people that don't have them. Now, at the same time, I want to state that not everyone that has narcissistic traits is a malignant narcissist, meaning not everyone that has those traits is a person that is out to hurt and destroy you. So there's a difference between being narcissistic and having malignant narcissism. Regardless of whether a person is a malignant narcissist or not, the reality is that if they have narcissistic traits, those traits affect you in relationships. And so in this video, what we want to do is learn how to go from enabling to immunity. So let's dive in. For those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a survivor myself of narcissistic abuse. I'm now a trauma-informed coach. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner, and I'm the founder of the School of Transformation, where survivors of emotional abuse or emotional trauma from all over the world meet together live on Zoom, and we do the healing work together. Right now, there is a 50% off sale on my yearly membership. It's good through July 7th. I will leave the link here as well as in the description below for anyone that's interested. We're going to go over 5 different areas where we can shift from enabling to being immune. And in each of those areas, we're going to look at what it looks like to be enabling the narcissist, what it looks like to be immune, and what steps it takes to get from one side to the other. So we all know that narcissists love to control. And one of the things they love to control is your self-image, how you see yourself, how you perceive who you really are. And this is what enabling looks like. And enabling starts really in childhood because it was more safe to enable our parents than to stand up for ourselves because we were so small and so young, right? So what happens is a narcissistic parent will see a child's authenticity and criticize them for it. And by the way, all children are born with authenticity, right? But what happens is they learn that authenticity isn't safe. So a child that is bold and outspoken and assertive will be criticized and treated as if they are bad for that very characteristic. A child that is creative will either be criticized for their creativity or be absolutely ignored, and then a sibling that has less creativity will be highlighted. A child that is skinny will be criticized for being skinny, and then when they gain weight, will be criticized for gaining weight. In other words, there is no win for the child. And so what happens is the child begins to amputate everything that the narcissistic parent doesn't like because they have to. That's how they ensure their safety. Because if I don't amputate the things that I'm being criticized for to a child, they're like, I'm going to be rejected. And if I'm rejected, I'm too small to take care of myself. I'm going to die. So you can see how if you had narcissistic parents, they set you up and conditioned you and taught you and trained you to enable someone else's bad behavior. So that when you're in a relationship as an adult, when that person is extremely critical of something absolutely normal, like let's say you love makeup and the person's like criticizing you for wearing makeup and then you stop. You love reading and the person's criticizing you for reading a book as if it's a sin and you stop, right? You're unable to see that what they're doing is wrong and you're amputating everything about you in an effort to try to make them happy because that's what you were taught in childhood, but that is enabling their behavior to continue. And the danger with that, I know with myself, when I did that, by the end of the relationship, I had no idea who I was. My inner compass of my image and perception of myself had changed so much. So let me know in the comment section if that resonates with you as well. So let's go to the flip side and look at what being immune to their behavior looks like. And I'll leave the tips on how to bridge that gap at the end, so make sure you watch all the way through. I'm going to start with telling you what not to do or what I did wrong for way longer than I should have. When I was in that kind of a situation where somebody was really making me feel like being me was bad, Breathing the air from my nose, from my diaphragm, was bad. Everything about me was bad, right? And so here I was yanking my personality inside out, trying to find the secret formula to make them happy so that I could feel like I was good. What I did wrong was try to find that secret formula, try to convince them of who I was. And if you're dealing with somebody that is unhealthy, it's never going to work. It's like trying to convince somebody that's blind of what color is or what color looks like. It's not going to happen. They're incapable of seeing color. Narcissists are incapable of seeing your authenticity, because to see your authenticity means they have to see that you are not an extension of them, that you are a separate being, and their brains cannot wrap around that. Thankfully, somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to change the narcissist. I stopped trying to think that I could get them to see me as who I really am. So that's part of becoming immune, is learning to let go of controlling the narcissist in a way, right? They're trying to control our perception of us, and we're trying to control their perception of us. Now, what we're doing comes from a good place. All we want is for people to see us as we really are. But when we start to understand that narcissists, they're like blind people, right? They're going to see what they wish to see. We start then getting in the driver's seat of our own self-image. And so the narcissist doesn't change. They're going to criticize you if you put makeup on, if they hated it before. The difference is rather than stopping, you're going to say, you're allowed to not like that. I'm allowed to love it. You start getting in the driver's seat. They're going to criticize you for doing what you love. And rather than stopping, you're able to continue. That's what immunity looks like. They're not changing, but it's no longer affecting you and stopping you from being you. So we're going to talk about now how narcissists expect you to revolve around them 24/7. Their needs are here. Your needs aren't even on the list, right? And so how they continue to keep you revolving around them is through making you feel sometimes overtly as if you're not enough by criticizing you, or covertly by almost accusing you of not loving them if you're not doing more. Either way, they are training you to stop caring about yourself and to be 100% 24/7 revolving around them. What enabling looks like, again, would be for you to continue to put yourself last, to put their needs first all the time, to the point that you are exhausted. You're running on fumes because you're giving. You're not receiving from them, and you're not receiving from yourself either. And I do want to stress with the examples that I'm giving, I'm not including anyone in a relationship with somebody where their life is on the line or where there's physical danger. Okay, we're really focusing on emotional abuse in these scenarios. And for that reason, I want to talk about how your childhood trauma sets you up for exactly what I'm talking about in this example. Remember the example I gave in the beginning, how a child is willing to amputate parts of their personality to make their parent happy. Because if they are happy, then that means that child is going to be cared for and therefore safe. Well, that's the fawn trauma response. And that fawn trauma response is what is kicking on that is causing you to be willing to put your needs at the bottom and to do everything in your power to make this person happy, because there is this unconscious old belief that if I do not make the other person happy, my life is on the line. And so when we're enabling, we are doing more and more. What you'll find the narcissist doing is doing less and less. They take a step back, you take 2 steps forward, right? Whether it's financially, emotionally, taking care of the house, how much you put into the relationship. By the end, you are doing everything. And then what happens is you notice, right? You're noticing all that you do, but you're also noticing not only that they're not doing, but they're not noticing all that you do. I hope that made sense. And when they're not noticing and appreciating all that you do, you feel extremely unappreciated. You feel like you have no value, because this is also tied into the first point with the self-perception. Because you're not able to see yourself through your own eyes, because they're not appreciating you, you're not getting anything from them, and again, you're not getting anything from yourself. And sadly, this continues in this cycle of trying to get them to appreciate and see all that you do. So what does immunity look like? Again, it starts with realizing that the narcissist may never appreciate all that you do. No, not that they may never. They will never appreciate what you do, because to appreciate what somebody does is to see value in them. It's to raise them up and realize, wow, this person has value. This person is amazing. And they can't do that because in their head, that means they have to lower themselves to do that. So the first step is realizing that they will never appreciate all that you do. However, you can start filling your own cup. You can start seeing your value. You can start building your self-respect, your self-esteem, your self-confidence. And if you notice, all of those words start with self. In other words, the confidence, the appreciation, the esteem comes from how we see ourselves. Sadly, narcissists teach you that it has to come from them, but that's a lie. When you start learning how to value yourself, to see your worth, then they will still be them. They won't change, right? It's not about getting them to change so that we can be okay. That's the fawn trauma response. In childhood, it's a great strategy. In adulthood, it keeps us stuck. So it's about letting them be them. That's their choice in who they want to be. And starting to realize that you can appreciate and see your worth despite how they are. Now, I know that's a lot easier said than done. That's why I want you to make sure you listen to the end to really understand what's involved in getting to that place. Okay, so let's talk about what it's like to go from enabling to immunity when it comes to gaslighting. We know that narcissists love to gaslight you. They love to confuse you. They love to make you think that you're crazy. And that's what they use gaslighting for. And so what enabling looks like is when they're gaslighting, not if, because we know that that's what they do, right? Narcissists are going to continue to be narcissists. When they gaslight you, enabling looks like trying to convince them of your reality, because that's one of the motives of gaslighting. Narcissists want to control your reality. And so when you get sucked into a conversation or a discussion, debate about what really happened, and you're trying to convince them, and you feel very unsettled unless or until you convince them, you're enabling them to continue to play with your hold on reality. If someone told me, Michele, you have 2 heads, or Michele, you have purple skin, I'm not going to spend an hour trying to convince them of my skin color or how many heads I have. In fact, if I did, and especially if I did so very heated, almost with desperation, it would really look as if I didn't, or I wasn't sure of how I saw myself. And so that's kind of a drastic way of pointing it, but in a way, that's what happens with gaslighting. The more we are desperately trying to convince them of our reality, the more our actions are saying, I need you to confirm and stay on the same page as me for me to hold on to me. Now, I don't want to minimize the reality of the fact that it's normal to want people to see your perception. It is normal when you're having a discussion to listen to the other person's perspective and to want to have your perspective heard. But again, we have to recognize that narcissists are not healthy people. So trying to employ healthy relationship tactics with somebody that is not healthy is only going to exasperate you. So then what does immunity look like when it comes to gaslighting? Doesn't mean that somebody that's immune to narcissists and narcissistic tactics is never gaslit. It just means that when they are, they don't get sucked into the fighting rink with the narcissist because they are so secure with their own reality. So some examples. Narcissists love to rewrite history, right? So when a narcissistic family member is rewriting what happened and making it like your reality didn't exist, somebody that's immune is going to do one of 2 things. They're either going to say one line like, I remember things differently. Now, when the narcissist tries to push and push and push and pull out of you what you remember, they're not going to go there. They're going to say something like, doesn't matter, so I'm not interested in revisiting it. I just remember things differently. That's it. They're not going to give anything else. Or they're going to strategically just change the subject by saying something like, that happened so long ago. I don't even think about that anymore. Have you guys heard about this? Or have you seen this movie? Or whatever it is. The point is that they're not even going to have an interest in convincing the narcissist or anyone else of what happened because they already know. They are convinced and they don't need anyone else's validation to hold on to their reality. Another tool that narcissists love to employ is the silent treatment. They love to punish you when you do something that they don't appreciate. And they withdraw all love, all support. What does it look like to go from enabling when they do this to immunity? Now, I want to first stress that when a narcissist is punishing you with the silent treatment, they are really hooking into your unhealed wounds. Basically, painful beliefs like I am unworthy and I am unlovable. And so when you act out of line to a narcissist, they're going to do everything they can to kind of turn up the pain of those beliefs. I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, I'm worthless, I don't deserve. And so that's basically what is happening when they give you the silent treatment. Your unhealed wounds are getting turned on in your body, and it is painful. It is overwhelming. Trust me, I know, I've been there. To me, it felt like I was the living dead when it came to the silent treatment, and it felt like intense emotional torture. And so we wind up accidentally enabling the narcissist by not even noticing how wrong and bad that behavior is. Now, this is hard to say. I'm trying to explain this because we do notice that that's wrong, but the pain of the painful beliefs is so painful that rather than staying focused on the fact that that behavior and what they're doing is so wrong, we are seeking alleviation from that pain. And we're seeking for them to stop the punishment so that we can feel better. And we are not realizing that we have the power to do that for ourselves. And so we enable by staying in those painful beliefs unconsciously, right? We're not doing it willingly. We're not doing it on purpose. We don't realize what we're doing. I know I didn't. I was completely unconscious when I was doing that. But we're seeking them to help us to feel better by ending the punishment. So what does immunity look like? Does it mean the narcissist no longer gives you the silent treatment? No. When they give you the silent treatment, though, you no longer feel tortured. Now, I know when I first learned this, I was like, how am I not going to feel tortured when their behavior is like that? But you really do get to that place where they're them. We don't like it. No one likes the silent treatment. No one thinks it's good, right? No one appreciates it. But it also no longer has the power to make you feel unworthy, unlovable, undeserving. It no longer makes you feel punished. And that being said, let's shift into how we get to that place of immunity, because all that sounds nice. And I remember when I first learned it, I was like, really? Like, I'm going to be able to not feel that? I'm going to be able to? Like, how on earth do I get to that place? Well, let's get into that part. Okay, so let's shift into my favorite part of this video, which is all about, okay, what do we do, right? That makes sense, Michelle. There's a difference between enabling and being immune to narcissists. How do I become immune? So let me share with you 3 tips that can help. Tip number 1 is about upgrading your belief system or your self-image. Narcissists can infiltrate people that have a belief system that can be predisposed to falling for their tactics and getting sucked into relationships with them. That's a huge difference between people that are immune and people that wind up enabling. They have different belief systems. I view narcissists like people that are trying to plant malware in somebody's computer program. They look for weaknesses in the software in order to plant their viruses. Now, a narcissist will do that. They will find people with a belief system that is susceptible to them. So if we change our belief system, then we are helping ourselves to become immune. In other words, it's not about memorizing everything about them and doing our best to avoid them, because that's impossible. But when we change our belief system, we make sure that our subconscious programs, our softwares are not infiltrated by their toxic behaviors. Tip number 2 is about learning how to not personalize what they are doing. Narcissists are going to be narcissists. They're not going to change, but we can change the meaning that we give their behaviors. Now, I remember when I learned this on an intellectual level, right? They call it the observe, don't absorb. And I would be like, I'm going to observe and not absorb. And I would be stifling what I was really feeling and pretending to not let it bother me. That's not real observe, don't absorb. Real observe, don't absorb is really changing the meaning. So the narcissist gives me the silent treatment. It used to mean to me on a subconscious level. I didn't even realize it. When I peeled it back and discovered what I was making it mean, I was almost in shock. But I had made it mean that meant, their behavior meant I was unlovable and I was bad. When I realized that, I was like, what? No, I don't believe that. Now, I'm sharing this with you because a lot of the meanings that you're going to uncover as you're healing are going to surprise you, because they're probably out of alignment with who you really are today, because they were established when you were a child. But the thing is that whatever meanings are stuck in our subconscious, while they're in our subconscious, we can't change them. And so changing the meaning and being able to observe without absorbing is first about learning what meaning you're making it that makes it painful. And once you can do that, now you have a choice. The brain can choose to agree, or it can change the meaning. And so the meaning that I chose to make the silent treatment was more in alignment with the adult I was, which was, that is unkind, unloving behavior on their part. It had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the way they handle disappointment. And so because the meaning changed when, not if, when the narcissist gave me the silent treatment, it didn't touch me emotionally because it had nothing to do with me. And I believed that. It was a meaning. It was now a new upgraded subconscious belief in my nervous system. And the last tip that I'm going to mention today has to do with rewiring your nervous system. Because the reality is that if you had narcissistic relationships, whether in childhood or in your adult life or both, your nervous system is rewired to keep you safe. It's wired to keep you surviving, not enjoying life. For example, the things that it is wired to be allowed to do or to feel safe doing are things like isolation, disconnecting, dissociating, being numb, being in a trauma response of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But when we go to do the things that allow us to live life and be excited and happy and have joy, it feels uncomfortable in our nervous system because the nervous system is not wired to be allowed or to feel allowed to do that. And so there's a whole rewiring process that needs to take place. That being said, I'm giving you these 3 tips, but I want to be realistic. Like, these things take time. Upgrading your beliefs, changing your subconscious programs, learning to embody what you learn through videos takes time and it takes support. That's why I want to remind you, from now until the 7th of July, we have a 50% off the School of Transformation, which is a membership where we meet live on Zoom. So you're not left to do the recovery work alone, and you're with an international group of people that are on the same journey. So if you're interested in an affordable yet profound transformational resource, make sure you check out those links.